Good afternoon from the UK, where it is snowing, but unfortunately, with the angle, you might not be able to see. Maybe we can check, see what's there. You see any snow? Maybe a white roof or two. Oh, you can see the camera going and trying to focus in. And I believe that we've got some English founders as well, if I'm not mistaken. At least one of our guests today, maybe even two, as we have both founder of Realm and I believe chief product officer, but they'll introduce themselves when they come on. We got Matt and Jovan. I hope I've pronounced that correctly.
Yep, sounded good to me.
Good stuff. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Hi,
Realm is one that we very much I've seen for a while. I think you launched around a similar time to us. We were August of 2021. Is that around when you guys were?
Yeah, we formed in like sort of beginning of 2021, so around April 21. Launched a token in September 21.
Fair enough. That was we formed in June, launched in end of August 31st.
Exactly. Yeah, no, we're all of that kind of like contingent where everything was really rosy for the beginning, and then it was like, hey guys, buckle up.
But you get to count like you get the accolade, like I always say for VEMP, that we launched prior to the Facebook rebranding, which makes us OG metaverse and gaming. Anything since then, hype and clout chasing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that was a wild time, to be fair, when suddenly, you know, you get one of the biggest companies in the world saying that this is the kind of direction that they think things are going to go in. Yeah, certainly wild period of time.
Yeah, well, it certainly did help, but obviously it brought problems with it, especially with the influx of terrible, there was a mixture between like brand new terrible projects who just spun it straight away, or tokens completely unrelated to gaming and metaverse. Say, we meant to do that. We were going to launch our metaverse. I think Floki was one that like came out, and now apparently they're completely like metaverse. But
yeah,
there's a lot.
I think also as well, you know, if it was Apple that came out and said they were shifting their whole business in that direction, and the market might have thought it was cool, but you kind of, you know, Facebook and Zuckerberg and just, I mean, just like PR nightmares for about 2 decades with that company. And it's like, okay, great. So there's all this excitement. Then there's like, you know, bodiless avatars and things like this. And people are like, God, this looks shit.
I remember I spoke to Brandon, who's I think he's the chief product officer of Ethereum World. And he was mentioning there's a reason why it's really hard to have legs in the metaverse. I can't remember what the reason was, but he mentioned that there's a reason why tons are like floating.
Yeah, I know there was something with the arms when you were in VR, and the way your elbows were, I'm moving my arms around like a madman on camera, but yeah, based on where your elbows were, if your wrist felt like in an unusual position, your brain would realize it wasn't right, so that's why they almost disconnected them and just had the floating hand points.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they're going for like hyper realism everywhere. You know, every single part is like essentially like psychology based research that then sort of tells you one way or another whether you should, you know, whether or not to remove the elbows or keep them in and this kind of thing.
Cool. I bet you anything that those psychologists are first out the door when they're doing these job cuts.
Yeah, maybe.
Can you hear us now?
Jovan,
hi guys, yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me okay? Awesome.
Yes. We managed to
awesome.
Chat enough.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Good stuff. I'll let you guys do your introductions now that you got you both back. We saved it by chatting nonsense.
Okay. Yes, presumably we're all live now. So I'm Matt, founder and CEO at Realm. Worked together with Jovan and one of the other founders, Milan, who's our CTO, for about 5-10 years, pretty much, between the two of them. Realm, maybe we'll go into the product slightly afterwards.
I'll let you...
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm Jovan, as Matt said, we've been working together for quite some time. And yeah, my background is I was in music initially, studied music, and then I did a degree at Cambridge, so that's where the theoretical stuff came in. Then a lot of startups until I met Matt, and we started a business in 2013. So it's been quite 10 years now.
Yeah, a while. Yeah, exactly. Should we give a top line on Realm?
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a basic Well, then again, I'll probably get it wrong now that I've got it, but in my head, and I'm probably gonna mess up, but is it like smaller spaces in the metaverse?
It was meant to be smaller spaces. Basically, they were meant to be, so essentially like virtual worlds, realms, and they're connected to a central city called the Metropolis, where there was like a portal from each realm into the city. And then you could connect lots of realms together by portals. So imagine them more like levels in a game. And initially, because we're on mobile, that was always the game for us, was like, we're a lot of mobile experience. We wanted to target that market and offer a really simple user experience. We thought, hey, let's try and shrink the size of some of these environments and not make them too large. In the end, I don't know, we haven't gone in that direction. We've ended up building quite large game worlds inside there. For instance, we'll be releasing a hoverboarding game in about a month's time. There's a sort of free mint and things like that now. But some of the courses are like pretty large. There's like, in fact, there's like 3 courses in one environment. It's so big. So yeah, there's kind of, we're sort of at the boundaries of size, but you wouldn't feel it's limiting. It's definitely like quite large game worlds, to be fair, some of them.
Fair enough. Because I think, well, firstly, the word free, where is this free mint? Where can people go to?
www.hovr.gg. Yeah. And we'll probably be doing part of it. Basically what it is there's a quest. You'll start the quest line, a hover quest line. I think it launches tomorrow. Am I correct, Joban? Something like that.
Yep, you're correct. It launches tomorrow.
Yeah. Complete this hover quest line. You basically like scavenge around for data parts, build up these like virtual hoverboards. Everyone who completes the quest line within a period of time, I think it's about 2 to 3 weeks, will then be put into a free mint whitelist, and we will airdrop, I think it's about 1,000 retro hoverboards. And then following that, there's some elite hoverboards which sort of have slightly different utility for the game. That will be a paid mint that comes afterwards.
There we go. We got viewers went up when free mint was mentioned, apparently, according to the audience. So it's always good news. Always gets them in. In regards to like other games, you mentioned that. So is it more pivoting towards, as well as having the spaces? Is it going to be more gaming focused going forward? Is it going to be like a game launcher, or is everything browser based, mobile based?
You want to take it, Jeff?
Yeah, I can jump in on that. So I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it's a launcher per se, but we've got like a microcosm within the app where people can basically sell their experiences or like access to their experiences, monetize what they've created. So it's more like a mobile Roblox type affair on a more infrastructure play. So we are targeting PC at some point, but at the moment it's a very much mobile focused product with like an ecosystem where people can build their own games with our desktop builder, which is already live, and then like monetize those products within the app.
So are you guys steering a particular direction and creating your own games and having a focus, or were you leaving it completely down to the community and hosting them from there, or is it a bit of both at the moment?
We basically build
stuff. At first we were...
I was going to say we basically build stuff to show what's possible with the platform, and then the idea is that functionality sits inside the builder tools, and then people can then take that functionality and create things that they would like to create with it.
Fair enough. I'm conscious that I can tell that you're, well, I'm not sure if it's your internet, Joban, or whether you are further away in the world than us. Are you based out somewhere more exotic? Because you're definitely coming through on a lag.
No, I mean, okay, sorry. No, I'm actually just in Portugal, so not too far away.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Are you in the UK now, Matt?
No, I'm on EST.
Oh, fair enough. So this makes no sense whatsoever.
No,
So
I'm
it's a dodgy Europe. That's what it is.
yeah, honestly
Bloody
though, Joe
EU.
Van's internet's pretty
Makes no sense.
yeah, bad.
Fair enough. Since you were like VEMP, the OGs launching before Meta rebranded, what was it that got you into the original concept, whether it was to launch as a sort of a blockchain gaming or metaverse blockchain? What sort of steered you in that direction?
Yeah. I mean, I tend to look long term in things. And when I looked at kind of NFTs, which is meant to be the precipice of digital art or whatnot, it seemed to me like one, we were consuming it through basically an eBay type like site with just loads of little tiles on it. And I was like, that surely isn't what the future looks like. And then you kind of think, well, if I'm buying these characters or whatever they are, they obviously have to become interactive. So it's like, okay, what do you go? You go a step further and you start to look at like gaming, and we were like, okay, so what existing gaming platforms are there where you could create something pretty permissionless, so I can build something, publish it, don't necessarily need a bunch of coding skills, don't need like, shader work and all this kind of stuff. So essentially, like, what might this platform look like? And then we're like, okay, so Realm came up with the thing where we were seeing there's such a proliferation of different PFP projects, all with their own branding, their own styles, and things like this. And it's like they ultimately all probably will want to have a 3D virtual environment that they do things inside. So like host virtual events, have gaming experiences, etc. Which obviously is deeply integrated into like the Web3 sort of infrastructure. Yeah, and then from there we just started building out, looking at like core things that we would need. We obviously took a slightly peculiar choice of going to mobile first. It's by far the largest gaming market, and it's where you'll see the most growth. But it's also a little bit tricky for interacting with Web3. So like Realm's platform really actually is like half Web2, half Web3. And we keep this like state between what's happening on chain and what's happening on server so that we can, facilitate someone who comes in from Web2 and says, hey, I really like, this asset or this game world or whatever it is, buy stuff like that, and at a later date, forge that and bring it over on chain without us necessarily taking like a legal custody of things. So like we just dug in at the beginning there and we were like, how do you make quick spaces, without loads of skills and sort of, monetize those spaces afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, sort of leads on to another question, which is about mass adoption in blockchain gaming and bridging over that gap to bring over more Web2. How did you, or have you managed to sort of get around? I know that like Apple, for example, haven't allowed Uniswap's app, which seems odd considering MetaMask is there. Maybe it's because they have a token, not sure. But have you guys sort of overcome those hurdles, or what do you think else is there that's sort of blocking that transition, especially for gamers and gaming?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, Realm has an in-app marketplace and a dApp marketplace, and then we connect both those marketplaces together. So say we minted like 1,000 objects on the dApp, we can also create those 1,000 objects inside the in-app marketplace. Someone could then go and purchase those using in-game coins that they bought via Apple's in-app purchases. And then we would then basically reduce the mint count. So like, one's been bought, there's only 999 available. And then we basically give an individual who's bought it on server a coupon that they can then go and forge that item on chain afterwards. So that's just like one of the many ways that we basically work with inside Apple's quite strict rules. And also it's not even necessarily just about the rules. It's that some people they may even want to pay more money, but just pay with Apple Pay there and then, with their thumbprint or something like this. And I think we have to be pretty wary. Like everyone in Web3 seems to think that we're going to get mass adoption by kind of making MetaMask and things like this really easy. And it's a little bit like, hey, people are just used to kind of holding their phone up to their face. And if the face looks the same, then Face ID says, yeah, they pay for it. And it's like, maybe we need to be looking at kind of those solutions and figuring out the economics on the background, how to incorporate Apple's 30% cut. It is also worth noting that Apple does allow under multi-platform services for you to buy and sell assets. If say you've got a PC game and your PC marketplace, for those assets to be used in the app. It's just a case that if you're going to sell and allow things to be used in the mobile app, you should also sell that in the mobile app. Yeah.
Fair enough. I didn't know that they had that. Well, to be fair, even though there's going to be tons of them, I just hadn't thought of the secondary market for Web 2 games. Well, is there many? As in, sort of, it seems very. I know Steam has some of it where you can sell like in-game items, but it just doesn't tend to be as much of a thing, really. Sort of monetizing and allowing players to monetize their own content and assets.
We primarily do it like this. So Realm has basically, we built an engagement engine, which connects to ad exchanges like Google AdMob and a bunch of the different in-game exchanges like Bidstack. So we take advertising dollars that come in. And if you're a creator, you can throw in basically ad inventory. Like say you make a racing game, you can have the flags across the racing course. And now when people go around, they're going to see like a Coca-Cola, adverts every, lap or whatever. So like that would be the primary way that we're asking creators to monetize their experience. Obviously, the other ways are like charging people for entry, selling assets and different things that enable you to progress through the game, either via an in-game marketplace or a DApp marketplace. It's actually a lot more difficult for us to do that in an in-game marketplace because we need to then figure out how to manage the money flow on the back end for all these different creators that maybe you have 10,000 games with, let's call it 10,000 unique sets of items. Now you need to pay out manually over fiat pay rails to all these 10,000 different creators. It's a nightmare, whereas it's super easy to do that on blockchain, which is why one of the things when you're dealing with both and you actually get to really look deep into it, you're like, oh my God, like this is the dinosaur ages, some of this Web 2 stuff compared to what's happening. Because the other part of that engagement engine that we have is that every single player that comes in and plays for about 15, 20 minutes a day is guaranteed to get, it averages out to about $1 a day in Realm paid out to them. So they go, they race a little bit, they, finish some daily quests. And, all of that automatically works via the blockchain where it's like we look at the engagement they do inside the game. We say, hey, if they hit these certain tasks, did they refer people? Yes, they referred people. How much did the person they referred play for? And then we calculate a value for them, and then we can ship out tokens to just an unlimited amount of people. So yeah, we have this weird thing right now where we're looking at this dinosaur ages of if we have to do stuff with fiat, and then how efficient the blockchain is for us to do some of the other cool payment stuff.
I wonder, do you monitor, for example, with that? Because there's always a element, and we're the same in the fact that we have a staking platform, so we pay out tokens to stakers, and so inflation is always a question that comes up. When you are incentivizing gameplay and engagement, do you track that, and do you check, like, for example, XYZ players are literally doing their minimum just to harvest rewards, and then how do you try and disincentivize that? Or do you bother trying to disincentivize that, or do you take the full decentralization approach where you just don't do anything about it and allow anyone to do whatever they want? I'd be interested to know sort of your thoughts on that.
They're really good questions. I think at least from what people would gather of play to earn is like people came in, they just grinded, and they would ultimately take out more from the ecosystem than they give. The way Realm works is that engagement, we ask people to invest time, and then advertisers spend money. They bring the money in. So when we're kicking out rewards to people, we're not kicking out much more rewards than we actually are bringing in ad revenue into the platform. And then what we have done specifically around kind of, are they like, we don't want bots. So we kind of tend to put the places that you'll get the reward, the XP from would be things that are difficult, like racing against other people on courses. Things that we find like not just necessarily like going around in circles and picking up just like scavenging bits of objects off the ground. So we're trying to, we're looking at kind of because obviously there is a value. If there's a bunch of people racing, a game becomes more interesting to race against 10 people than 6, for instance.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So bringing the player numbers up, I think, does add value beyond the value they may be bringing in from adverts. But also I think $1 a day is like quite a small amount. And I can tell from our data, like when we launched throughout Christmas and stuff, there's people who are playing for like 2 hours, 20 minutes, and they could hit the XP threshold in 15 minutes and they're playing for 2 hours, 20. So there's always a stratification of players. Some are kind of there just to grab the reward and stay not much longer. But I guess our overall thesis to this, if anyone really cared, would be that at the beginning of any game creation platform, you essentially need to get as many players in as possible. Because when you have the players, it's an incentive for the creators to create on your platform. And then once the creators have created more experiences, well, those experiences are probably better, more fun games, more progression, etc. So there's more reason for the players to stay. So it's like you give them more rewards up front to stick around for a little bit. And, new experiences, new realms are dropping weekly. And then over a period of time, 6, 12 months into it, you start to get to a point where there's good enough games that people, like our racing games, people love them. They play them almost nonstop. Monday nights we do racing. There's always huge peaks of players that'll turn up for racing on Monday nights, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think it's a balancing act, and kind of like any marketplace, players and creators, we need to kind of stimulate both sides.
Yeah, fair. Daily active users is definitely a metric that's used in often reflects a much better picture of, there's so many things that can be manipulated in crypto, like, Twitter followers, botting, and like engagement and stuff. I mean, technically, daily active users can be, but it's certainly much more difficult. And it's I see sometimes like I can't remember who it was, but this just goes to show. Like I heard there was some L2 or some L1 blockchain that said that they had like the biggest amount of daily active users in gaming, and I literally hadn't heard of them before. And I thought, well, that's obviously just fake. So there must be a way to do it, because I guess, but it's one of those. It's like where every other advert says that they're the top XYZ, but the definition is just so loosely changed to fit and mold it in. But actual like runtime and stuff like that is very easy to fake.
Pretty much. Yeah, from our perspective, we look at like user acquisition costs, and predominantly not just Web3. Like we're heavily looking at kind of mobile gamers. Yeah, so they're just standard Web2 mobile gamers. Session time, number of sessions per day, user attention obviously is like super important. I do think that we found like, at least with our user attention, we've had some excellent, like we've moved from like, I don't know, we're kind of now, I think on day 60, we're still at about 22% of our users were engaged. So it's like, we're pretty happy with where we are on user attention. Our session times were moved from 2 to 22 minutes, which we're pretty happy about. And I do think, to be fair, like paying out rewards to people based on like, hey, we're going to run adverts inside here and you're going to get a cut of this has assisted with that. I mean, look, no one's like, quitting their job over like $1 a day. That's not happening. But it's like the choice of whether they want to race in our game or some other racing game and maybe make $1. I think like they're like, actually, I probably will.
How's the internet now, Joban?
I think it's better. How is it?
That's much better. The lag wasn't there. Yeah, we're actually coming straight away. Yeah. It's my worst thing when you've got like everyone stopping and starting. It just makes me die inside.
I know it happens a surprising amount, doesn't it? Given the technological age, but yeah.
You think someone would fix that? There we go. There's a new business idea. What's some of the like effectively when roadmap? But what are some of the? You mentioned that just before Christmas, you had sort of a full launch. What is the short and long-term vision or roadmap now?
Yeah, so we're finishing up some tasks that we had with like core infrastructure, like reward infrastructure, ad infrastructure, and that's pretty much all goes live like this month. And then like we've been kind of heavily focused on sort of creation and like the friction points in creation. So it's sort of like, I don't know, like we've been working on procedural generation and AI and ML for probably like 6 or so months. We have one guy, Matt, on the team.
Hang on. AI, have you been working on it for 6 months, or did you mention it for the first time 2 weeks ago when everyone was going mental?
So Mark, yeah, to be fair, like you can go back through our devlogs and you'd see like Matt has been doing procedural generation for like game courses and things like this. Also Marcus, who's our lead game engineer, he contributes to like GPT Index, which is like basically open AI repositories that connect to large language models to basically so you can teach them everything you know about Realm or everything you know about a company by connecting it to an external database, a knowledge base. So we've been playing around with like, we do it for our code base to sort of onboard people. So we have like multiple marketplaces, builder tools, mobile apps, Android, iOS, and they're actually built quite dissimilar because of some nuances to the way we had to design things. Yeah, so like when we brought new people in, they would just be like, hey, how do I do something in Realm? And they would just ask basically ChatGPT or DaVinci connected to some work that we'd done on what's now called OpenLlama. And then, yeah, you would get spat back all of the code. And this is how we basically built really fast. And we started looking at how to do that in terms of like customer service. So like, could we connect all of the NPCs across the whole of Realm? So that when you go in, someone might be like, hey, I want to build something inside this place. And it's like this NPC will then tell you, like, hey, do I need certain things? Answer everything you would need to know about creation. Then take you into the actual creator tools. So we were initially, when we first came out, we were probably the first metaverse. We came up with what was a dual land class model. So the idea was that we'd be able to have an infinite amount of land that could be created because we wanted to train the creator tools to basically understand like, okay, people are using, essentially everything's built on a grid base, yeah? And then basically there's objects go onto a grid base, they're scaled to a certain size, they're rotated in a certain direction, and we classify each of the objects that sits on these grids. And then basically what we wanted to understand is, okay, if the creators can create all these different spaces, and then we have the classification of all of the objects, then we essentially know how to automatically create a space based on the way people seem to space different objects around and cluster different objects. So we've always had that idea of like, we need infinite amount of data to come in to obviously speed up the creation process. And yeah, now we're also looking at kind of like, the other like easy things. So storylines coming in from ChatGPT is kind of interesting on the creative side, running through into 11 labs on text to voice, voice to text we already do off the OSs. Basically any point in a pipeline for creation where we can implement some form of AI, ML, or procedural generation will be like, that's the primary thing that we're focused on now. It's finish up this stuff and move the whole dev team onto creation tools, really. I mean, we already have a team of like 3-4 people on creation, but like we'll move the rest of the developers over there because the rest of the game's all made.
Fair enough. What is, and just mentioning about how people space stuff, for example, have you had any instances yet of people creating really strange things and like really weird stuff? Have you like gone into someone's realm and seen some like stuff that scarred you?
I wouldn't go that far. There was a Mia Khalifa homage type realm, and there's like been some funny stuff out there, but that has led us to actually take a look at moderation a lot more. It wasn't bad actually. It was within the bounds, but you are right. You raise a really good point that we need to seriously think about community moderation. And so now we've implemented like a rating system. So you can rate an experience when you're in there, but you can also send a direct report based on like a list of reasons why that might be offensive, and then we'll review it. Or you can actually also message the creator directly, which is one of the coolest things we've just done, because I think like people really appreciate having some direct feedback with their people enjoying their experience, really. And I think it's a really good way to and then you can go back and like amend your rating and so, and we're monitoring all of this as well. And it's a discussion around soon we're going to start ranking realms by popularity and things like that. And, discoverability is obviously super important in something with a lot of user generated content, but nothing too bad yet, but we're ready for it.
I was going to say, and I just put myself on mute there because someone started drilling. But I don't know what it is about the internet, but like if you make any sort of chat room, any sort of like any space where someone can like just post something, some Nazi comes in and starts putting swastikas everywhere. It's like I see people spamming like Discord with just slurs and like swastik. I think, who are these people who like just go in and decide what I'm going to do in my spare time? I'm going to spam Discords with swastikas. It's like people are really strange. Like there is some real nutters out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Call of Duty lobbies and all that. It's a time immemorial thing, right? But even
at least then there's historical context sometimes. Like Call of Duty, like it might be World at War. Then at least like they're giving historical context. But like I saw one in this Discord, Arabian camels. Can't find context for that. Actually, Indiana Jones wasn't there. They went into the desert in the Holy Grail one, didn't they? And there was a bunch of Nazis there. That's the only time I've seen Nazis in the desert. But they'll find a way. No matter where, they'll find a way. Very, very strange.
I mean, even on the other side, like we've got someone who just built something with a load of Pokemon in it, which is super cool. But then, we've obviously. We theoretically, as a platform, aren't responsible necessarily for user-generated content, but they might, end up infringing some kind of copyrights, and it's like it all gets quite murky. Yeah, it's interesting, but ultimately, it's not our responsibility theoretically.
Yeah, I guess it's only your responsibility to enforce when directed, rather than actually putting it on there and deciding what can. But content I find very, very interesting in terms of the attitudes and approaches to it, especially when it comes to decentralized social media, and especially with the problems that like there's a bunch of like weirdos in the world. How do you create a decentralized social media or a decentralized space when you've got just so many people who want to cause chaos for no reason? So that's one thing that I find is decentralization, all or nothing, or, where is the line? Because there's DAOs, for example, that aren't really DAOs, like when A16Z voted with all their Uniswap and got rid of Binance Smart Chain there. Like, how can you still claim decentralization if that can be done? But then there's that governance issue, but at the same time, where does it end, I guess? And as a blockchain business founders protocol, it's very hard because you've always got, you'll probably have experienced this enough yourselves, like no matter what you do for whatever reason, somebody will hate you for it. There is no way to appease everyone. And most of the time, it's always like the loudest like minority who, like, no matter what the decision is, you can guarantee like that the person complaining either like doesn't even hold your token or just but that's just a problem with the industry in general and sort of who we seem to attract. But I think that's mainly due to the fact that blockchain at the moment is built around the more speculative areas of the market, and therefore that attracts people who don't use your token for its utility, but speculate on your token, and then they expect the behavior of the founders to be the same as theirs. But then actually I say that they expect the founders to be the same as theirs, but heaven forbid the founders actually make any money. They should be doing all of this for free.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, it is amazing. I really like, I'm very active in our like community, like on Telegram and stuff. I usually like hit people up a lot. Partially because I love the feedback loops and stuff, but sometimes it's like when you don't do that for like a week or two, and it's like, yeah, guys, because there's like 6,000 things, so you have no idea how big they are that I'm trying to like catch up on, and then you go back and it's like, you know, screaming at you, and it's like, oh, come on. Like we've kind of thought about it a lot. Like we always fall back to like tech and what might a process look like. It's like, hey, maybe it's like, maybe we need to know how much tokens they have in their wallet. Like maybe we need to rank them as, you know, like how long they've been here. Like maybe we need to, you know, at least when it came to a kind of this reward mechanism, we were looking a lot like, hey, the people that are going to use the product the most should get the most rewards, was the basic idea at the beginning. And it's like, maybe the people that have been around the most and been talking the most or given the most suggestions are the people you should listen to first, because you just get to a bandwidth problem where it's just not plausible. And I think what's even worse is sometimes that people can have amazing ideas, but what they don't necessarily understand is that if you were to implement that amazing idea, the other 5 amazing ideas from the community or the team would all, you know, maybe be delayed by a considerable amount of time or something like this, or not even be possible, you know. And sometimes it's like there's a reason centralized companies work quite well and efficiently at the beginning, you know, like it's like the military. They essentially go in, they have a plan, they move the plan through the ranks, everyone moves in the right direction, you pivot a little bit, you know, but like with this decentralized aspect, your biggest asset is the mindset and all the knowledge that all the people can have in your community. But then at the same time, it's like, how do you effectively manage that without getting weighed down, just constantly having conversations and not getting the thing done? You know, because they'll hate you more if you don't deliver on the roadmap.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, there's just no right answer, especially with DAOs. I mean, we rebranded recently. I mean, we still have governance, but we were originally the Empire DAO, and the DAO had 2 Ds, and that confused the hell out of everyone. And everyone just thought it was a spelling error and typo, and that's why we just got rid of it. And now we're just VEMP because it's super easy. But yeah, I mean, dealing with sort of our own governance and also dealing with like experience of like Cult DAO, which is another DAO I'm involved with. Like honestly, like the arguments, like it's the most inefficient way of working. I mean, there's something like really, really good about the fact that, like, you know, they're huge and, you know, they've done extremely well, and, you know, there's some absolute nutters in there, but they're all still like working towards a common goal. They fall out, and most of them like mean well, but my God, does it make everything so slow. This is why I thought, like, is there a way to well, this is the beauty of blockchain, I guess, because it's like how inventing stuff was really easy back when you were a caveman, because like anything was new, and it's sort of the same with blockchain. Like you have the opportunity to, like, you know, come up with new stuff and try it out and see if it works. And I'm wondering if there's like a FAO, speaking of Nazis in the desert, like a fascist DAO, which is just that you elect a leader. And I thought about this in terms of like the governance aspect of it, where you could, rather than having an incentivization where the person is like paid, if the person thinks they are, like, you know, hot shit enough to like lead this DAO, you have like a board of like shame. And if somebody like messes up, all of the members can vote that person onto the board of shame, where they remain forever, just for people to look at in the future. So it's like the opposite of it's a disincentive rather than an incentive, because we have so much incentivization in crypto, and I'm wondering if that's, and it comes with the problems of, like, you know, reward harvesting or governance, for example, like people like multi-walleting if there isn't like cyber protection. I'm just trying to like, it's like what are those? It's like I want to say the word decompose, but it's definitely not it. You know, where you dissect a dessert and then like you have it.
Oh yeah, deconstructed.
That's it, deconstructed DAO basically, and doing it the other way around. But yeah, it's just stuff that comes into my head that I've never have time to actually act on.
Yeah.
But it's just
I
trying
think
to
the
figure out
disincentives
problems.
work well when, because you see it a lot with kind of like multi-sig and stuff like this, where it's kind of like we're going to hand this keys to the thing to some, you know, notable project or whatever, and you know you're going to lose your entire reputation and all your channels and be known as a scammer if you do something wrong. I don't know how they would necessarily apply to an individual unless it was like, you know, their specific Twitter, you know, and they were doxxed maybe. Like, I guess like that's probably the core of it. I mean, one thing we've seen, at least, because we found at the core of Realm is that imagine it's just Roblox, but it's like a decentralized co-owned version of Roblox. You can play or create, and we have 25% of the total token supply will just go out to players and creators initially from, you know, that engagement. And then we've kind of thought a lot, like we still have investors or token holders who would buy tokens and they would hold them just for, you know, some kind of speculative purposes. And sometimes we thought, well, I don't know, maybe we want to hand over more governance to the platform to people, talk about content moderation like we just did. Let's say we need to make a decision, copyrighted content, like what do we do? Do we just delete the realm? You know, or do we delete the realm and ban the user? Or, you know, and we just have these two choices. We pass the governance of that decision over to the actual community and let them decide on it, which is kind of better for us. And I think, at least based on our viewpoint of Facebook and all the other social platforms, centralized governance and making up these rules hasn't really worked for them. They've not solved things like, you know, content moderation issues themselves anyway. So maybe collectively we could do it with some decentralized systems. And yeah, so then when we look at this, we're like, hey, well, we have a social layer to the app, and then we have the game layer with the game worlds. Maybe we can put it into the like Realm Stories functionality. People can view the stories. Everyone that's viewed it has a vote, for instance, and we can try and like incentivize people to view the problem, see both sides of the solution. So, for instance, one might be if we ban the creator, we reduce the amount of creators, and it may have been an honest mistake, blah, blah, blah. Reducing the amount of creators on the platform is bad in the long run. You know, and there's just some simple ways that we break down the governance decisions into, you know, for and against, you know, on pros and cons. And then the other thing that we thought about this is that with every governance decision that gets made on the platform, we should create a set of KPIs that are public. So, for instance, like, you know, maybe we see that less creators want to join the platform because they think it's, you know, quite controlling, or, you know, so on and so forth. And we just work out what KPIs might be useful. Like maybe we find that when we take away loads of like swear words and, you know, cursing and stuff like this out of chat, we just auto, you know, clean it out. We got a younger audience who came in, Gen Z players or some stuff like this, or higher user retention. So it's like, how could we like holistically take a decision and give information to the community so that they can like, because everyone has opinions, but if you then see, oh shit, we made the wrong decision, even though 75% of us voted for this, we're all fucking idiots. We need to turn around and do the other thing. You know, sorry, you're on mute.
So I forgot about that. So I never usually have mute on because you don't usually have somebody dwelling next door. But yeah, I mean, how do you manage that in terms of monitoring that sort of engagement? Do you have something in-house, or do you use something third party, like monitoring, for example, what you mentioned about the, you know, if Gen Z come in more based on like curse words, etc.?
Yeah, so I mean, we try to monitor like as much information we know about the players that sign up, as much as they'll give us. We have to ask age. I think it's not currently in, but we'll be asking age. We currently know from our onboarding funnels, usually if we've targeted like people on TikTok, we know that like 95% of the people that downloaded from TikTok are 18 to 24-year-olds, for instance. So we know they're like Gen Z, and then we look at cohorts of players that come in. And then, you know, for instance, if we made a change, we would then basically look in the certain cohorts of individuals and be like, hey, do they stick around more or less if with these changes? I mean, just on the back end viewpoint, we're using like Segment, Mixpanel, Firebase Analytics. We use a ton of different analytics suites, and then we pipe some of them into some custom dashboards as well to try and understand what's happening inside this platform. And I think at some point we'll move that into more of a publicly accessible dashboard where it's like, hey, you can kind of take a look at what's going on here, because we think it is important. I don't know, because I think going back to sort of what we were saying earlier, when you have these investors on the outside, they just want invest, passive returns, maximum. That's basically like their formula. Whereas someone who plays and creates all the time might be like, hey, I really want the most functionality for as little cost as possible in the creator tools, and as maximum, distribution of my realm across the whole platform with as little cost as possible might be their kind of thing. And the player might be like, I want to see the best, most interesting realms. So if some creators made a shitty realm, I'm not so interested in that, filter it out, hide it, and you have these competing sort of, needs, which we obviously have to balance out. And then I think that when the player and the creator understand each other, and in the long run, the investor understands that to grow a platform as big as possible makes it the best, probably the most likely the best investment they could have. Then when you get the three of them aligned and we all collectively move in the right direction, then I think, and just know that right means pivot. Yeah, it's right, left, right, left, right, left, but still stepping forwards each time.
Fair enough. Is that and to anyone in the comments section, please do ask your questions, just so that when we finish ours, we got those to refer to. Do you think that's the best way of keeping a community engaged, is by allowing them to have maximum influence over the future? Or, well, I mean, obviously that's one way, but is there anything else that you think that you do in particular that sort of maximizes and keeps the community coming back?
I think just on that point of governance, we think about it in macro would be the whole platform. Are we going to make some change to the, that would affect all the realms? And then on the micro, it'd be can you have governance in a specific game world that a brand's making? So, hey, what game features we build next, what characters and stuff like that we come up with. I think that's probably more interesting for players, in the short term. And then, just solving engagement going forwards. To be honest, for us, what we've seen works is just multiplayer racing, new quests, new storylines, just new content. Just keep bringing out new content and trying to sort of expand upon those stories as much as possible. New vehicles, just anything new.
Yeah, I think from my side as well, obviously the comments are great, by the way, I was just checking them out. But I think it's kind of transitioning from being someone where we are the main drivers of new content within the platform to basically being the platform, right? So with Roblox, it's just more builders building cool stuff, and it's not, at that point, it's less about us and it's more about us just providing the right tools for people to provide more content. And so that's why we're focusing on quest builders, racing builders, all the, game mechanics, so that ultimately people maybe won't shout at us so much about what we're doing. We're just there at the underbed of this kind of hopefully wider ecosystem of people playing cool experiences. So I think that's the ultimate transition that we want to make.
People will always shout at you, though.
I know. They're always going to, for sure. But maybe they'll shout at other creators and stuff as well,
Maybe a little bit less, anyway.
Yeah.
The first question from the comments was at the beginning when you mentioned the free mint. Someone was asking, what was that link again? Hopefully they're still here.
Yeah, www.hovr.gg.
And to anyone who's joined us halfway through, that was a free mint of 1,000.
About 1,000 retro NFT hoverboards. There's a game called Hover that's launching on Realm, which is a sort of a partnership between Realm and a bunch of artists, about 20 artists in total. Yeah, super fun hoverboarding game. Yeah, I mean, check it out. I think if you go to our Twitter, enter_Realm, a lot of the sort of recent posts are around hover.
Good stuff. Next one we have is Steam have always been notoriously anti-crypto NFT. Do you think they'll eventually see the benefits? And if so, do you think their name will be enough to secure monopoly market share? I guess that's in relation to Steam.
Yeah. We were actually talking to some people about this recently. Like, obviously, game launches are super important for the PC ecosystem. I think it's pretty interesting that they have banned crypto, and I'm not quite necessarily sure why. Like, I know that Epic also then opened their store up. They said we're open for business, and now they're apparently not taking new games on in the crypto space. So that's also sort of closed off. So there is definitely an opportunity for a launcher out there. But I do think if Steam pivoted, they would dominate. Yeah, to be quite honest, like there's not such a big market share, and so well trusted. So it would be an interesting move for them to make. Yeah.
I mean, we do like to, as like crypto bros, we do like to rebel against it and think, well, if that's the done thing, then no. And also, if they are like Steam have shunned for so long, then we're ones of holding grudges. As we said, somebody wants to, purely for investigation purposes. What's the Mia Khalifa Realm link?
Okay.
You don't have to answer that one. I'm sure there's plenty of other websites for that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
Could you create?
Yeah, it was like we woke up and there was like it was like some you were like swimming with like all these huge Mia Khalifa kind of images. I was like, oh God, man, I was not planning on spending a day on moderation.
Fair enough. So I think you might be talking about a dream that you had.
Or a nightmare. It was like really busy day, and then everyone's like, what do we do about this? Because we have quite a lot of people who's like the dad or whatever has invested in Realm and has kind of been here for a while, and they've like got the kids playing, and the kids are creating worlds and all sorts of stuff like this and earning a bunch of Realm. And then it's like, okay, so like you've got your like 13-year-old kid there and some like semi-porn kind of Realms.
Have you? Yeah. So you mentioned that you were working on age verification, and are you gonna? I guess the question is, if that was nowadays, I'm not. Well, actually, then again, you didn't mention if. I presume that it did get taken down, or would you now gate that via age?
Yeah,
that's the plan. Yeah, age gating. That's why we're taking age at sign up, just so that we can actually start. Because actually, we're not as a business by any means against like some form of NSFW content. Like, it's not like, I don't think, it's not like that's completely, as long as it's legal. I don't think we want to be a censorship heavy business, right? But at the same time, we do need to create a safe environment for everyone to experience the platform. So that's the approach.
And you know what they say, sex sells.
Exactly.
Could you create a realm to do a treasure hunt for an NFT whitelist?
100%, yeah.
100%. Let's see what else we got here. I think you've already answered this in terms of like you guys have templates and that someone can use to build from zero. And where can someone go if they're watching this right now and they want to try out and build a custom realm?
The best place would be, you can go to our website, realm.art, but also, so the builders are all hosted on itch.io, so you can find our profile there. All the links are in Telegram and on the website, and it's totally free. Yeah.
Was that a conscious choice to go for realm.art, or how many others were taken before you landed on that one, or was it a first choice?
No, we were, at the time when we launched, it was like, firstly, we were thinking in very much in an art-focused manner at that time. I think we were more art than fully fledged games, to be honest. I think our scope has expanded as our, visions have. But also, I think it fits the business quite nicely, and we're pretty happy with it. But yeah, I think realm.com probably wasn't cheap, let's be honest. But
I can imagine that wouldn't have been any sort of single word nowadays, but realm.xyz, what's the .io is always, the .io.xyz.com.
Yeah, we've got
Or-
.gg for Hover, which I quite like.
But yeah, that's I think Discord sort of popularized that.
Yeah. I think also as well, like when we think about our platform, like so for instance, there's an experience that launches, I think, on the 12th of this month. And it's a collab we did with an artist called Matt Cooper. He's like an audio visual artist, sells out like places all around the world. And yeah, that was like a really cool kind of, what we've done is he records all his music in Dolby Atmos, which is like a cinema technology that's like directional sound. And then we basically, so when he's recording, he has like 120 speakers where different sounds are coming from different directions, you know, and it's kind of like this weird pattern type thing. So we've taken all of this data and then put that into a realm, into like a 3D virtual environment that you can then fly through and swim through. And as you move based on your player location inside that experience, you're essentially remixing the record. So like, I guess what I'm saying is that we broadly think that we're actually transitioning from a very like static 2D interaction of brands like websites, social media pages, etc., into these like 3D, more immersive and interactive experiences. And, you know, I think that will be like, you know, everything from a kind of shopping experience where you're walking through different spaces and music experiences. Like, you know, we see this thing with Max as more of an interactive music video, you know, through all the way to like, you know, very key, like game kind of, you know, hardcore game, like Mario Kart-esque sort of play, etc. Yeah, I think everything's shifting there, you know. You can look at the macro of what's happening in the market. The phones have got good enough. You know, the GPUs and the RAM in there is like realistic, that you can actually do this. Internet connections are pretty good, that you don't need to store so much on the device. You have all these, yeah, apart from Joe bands. So yeah, we're all in all, like you just look at this kind of cluster and it's like, okay. And we've had 2 decades nearly of social media, of just scrolling like this on flat stuff. Yeah, that is kind of also as well why Realm has a social media layer, and then underneath it, you click into the 3D worlds from the social layer, because is an order of magnitude more energy required to play games in a 3D world than just flick your thumb.
Fair. There's no, this question means nothing to me, so hopefully it means something to you, which is, when statue of R.T. O'Donnell in Metropolis?
It is a good question. He's probably, I think he's definitely our most avid creator. He builds a lot. Maybe we'll have to take one section of the courts and place a big statue in there for him.
Fair enough. And then another very important question. So how do I won't use the word because it's not a word that things like, but how do I get involved in this project? How do they get the Realm token?
Realm tokens on Uniswap, PancakeSwap, Gate. Best place really to go in and is just to head over into maybe our Telegram or our Discord. I think if you go to our Twitter, enter_realm, link trees there with all the links. Everyone can obviously help you out and point you in the right direction. Yeah, that's probably the best place to start.
Also play every day, and we have leaderboards for racing, leaderboards for our Fall Guys style things, and we have a Monday meetup. And if you win any of those or come even in the top 15, then you get quite a lot of Realm tokens. So
we'll get the squad on a racing thing. But yeah, no, thanks so much for joining. I've definitely learned a decent amount about you guys and about overall generation of content in the metaverse and what everybody's doing in terms of customization. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll try and get VEMP into one of these Monday sessions.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good to me.
Nice
yeah,
one.
I see there was a question about it'd be cool to create some sort of community event where people can create together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so one, we broadcast a lot of these kind of things, the audio we broadcast into Realm. So while people are playing, they can kind of listen in. The builder tools are actually built to be multiplayer creation as well. So you in real time can all create from around the world. I haven't kind of really used that part that much yet, but should be coming up soon, and maybe we can figure out some community events there.
Good stuff. I think I've seen, you're live streaming it in your Metropolis Realm in the app currently.
I think so.
Metropolis. What's that thing? Have you seen the movie Megamind?
Maybe.
So there's a. No, I'm thinking. Sorry. So there's a city in it called Metro City.
Yeah.
But the Megamind character calls it Metrocity, I think. And so I got it completely wrong. But basically the joke was that somebody found out that it wasn't him because he said it wrong. And I got the same thing with Metropolis, and I was thinking Metropolis. There we go. But yeah, see, you can tell I've been on podcasts for an hour because words don't exist anymore. Nice one, guys. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks so much for having us, Tom.
Catch up on Telegram.
Yeah, perfect. Cheers now. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye-bye.